Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest on the very stormy weather we do have that is continuing through today, lasting through this evening and perhaps even into the early hours of the morning. We've got very strong gusty winds and still got our significant yellow warning issued for most of England and Wales for very strong gusty winds that will be arriving within the next few hours or so. By the time this video is probably published, that is when the peak winds are starting to hit. We've also seen an update in the warnings further northwards. We now have thunderstorm warnings issued widely through Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England, as we do have a lot of energy around today. And you can already see by the live radar we've got some big beefy lines of showers with some significant storms breaking out within this. The only caveat we have with that is because these storms are associated with a larger low pressure system with very strong winds, they are moving through quite quickly, so there shouldn't be, unless we do see some significant lining up of storms, there shouldn't be too much in terms of disruption because of flooding, as rainfall will be very heavy, but it should move through relatively quickly compared to other summer downpours that we have seen over the past few weeks. So we'll run through the latest from the live radar. We'll have a look at the lightning radar as well to see where we've got some active storms, run through the weather warnings and some of the shorter range models, have a look at the next 24 hours or so, and we'll finish up just having a look at the longer range as well, as it is continuing to look very unsettled and pretty cold as well. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. To start on the live radar, you can see where the centre of the low is at the moment. Across parts of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, this is where we've got a bit more of significant rainfall. Again, a bit of a wall of rain wrapping around the centre of the low pressure system. And this will continue to progress further eastwards. On the outer bands of the low, we're now seeing significant storms. We've got a lot of energy being pumped in this because the wind is coming from the south, where it is pretty hot at the moment. You can even see storms breaking out across parts of France in the same alignment as the ice bars for the low pressure system. But you can see the biggest thunderstorms are breaking out in the west and the north at the moment, but they will primarily focus further northwards through this afternoon. The best conditions are in probably the south and east, but it's not particularly great here. Thunderstorms still occurring, but just a bit more gaps between them, and not quite forming up in as many lines as they are across parts of the northwest and northeast. But here we're actually going to be seeing the strongest winds over the coming hours, where it could gust up to 60 miles per hour in some places. So it's a pretty horrible day out there. Not complete washout. There is dry weather within this. Between the showers, the sun will get out and it probably will feel not too bad. But these showers will rattle on, and you will know about it when they do arrive, giving very high rainfall rates, but hopefully for only a short period of time, as they do swiftly move through. We can actually run back the precipitation radar and watch them form. You can see they are moving incredibly quickly, moving from the southwest to northeast, and you can just see them intensifying over the past few hours, going from more just light to moderate showers of a few heavier pulses in the cores to more darker reds appearing in the last sort of half an hour or so, with significant storm formation in many regions. You see the temperatures are pretty abysmal today. Very hot conditions that I've seen now starting to appear in the news a lot for southern and eastern regions. Again, this is not a surprise. We're seeing hot conditions here with the jet stream further northwards, low pressure trapped across northwest Europe, and essentially it means the high pressure systems that generally do develop across parts of North Africa, with very hot air developing under it, have nowhere to go, and it essentially creates a heat dome over these regions. So yes, there is very hot weather going on in southern Europe, and the reason for that is because this hot air generally mixes with Atlantic air, but we're seeing a huge divide right here where those air masses aren't really mixing, meaning the UK is well below average, and much of northwest Europe is well below average, and further southwards and eastwards is much higher, with it being well above average, absolutely baking here. So I have seen a lot of headlines that have been accurate in terms of it is very hot, but there are always trade-offs. The UK is cool at the moment, parts of southern Europe is very hot. When the UK gets very hot, southern Europe generally goes very unsettled and a lot cooler. So there's always a hot part of Europe in general, and there's always generally a cooler part. It's very rare that the whole continent is very warm, unless we did see a huge high pressure system develop, which has happened, but it's not happening at the moment. But one thing it does mean is that if the UK does get a bit more of a desirable pressure pattern, with more of a south or easterly wind developing, then there is plenty of hot air to tap into. If we also just have a look at the wind speeds at the moment, these are not the wind gusts, but these are the sustained wind speeds. You can see they are relatively strong, especially in southern regions, as high as 20 or 30 miles per hour sustained winds quite widely, and along the south coast maybe as high as 35 or 40, and of course gusts are 10 to 20 miles per hour higher than that, up to maybe 60 miles per hour. If we do go over to NetWeather, we're able to have a look at the latest on the rainfall radar. And you can see here, again, very similar look to the weather channels. And you can see, once again, some significant lines of storms developing. And if we do put on the lightning, you can see plenty of oranges and reds, which indicates that we are seeing plenty of active thunderstorms breaking out at the moment. You can see here on the little legend here, anything red or orange is in the last 10 or 20 minutes. And there's always a little bit of a delay to this lightning radar. So just showing you plenty of active storms that are taking off at the moment, and there are probably more storms here that are active that haven't been picked up by the live radar yet. So yeah, very lively afternoon. To be honest, I'm pretty surprised we've seen the thunderstorm warning issued only further northwards. From the looks of the live radar, probably should have been issued further south as well, considering we are seeing significant storms break out here. The probability is lower, but we are still seeing storms break out here, so perhaps we should have seen a widespread yellow warning for areas further southwards, maybe stretching more into the Midlands. But nevertheless, significant conditions around for all. We have been talking about this for a number of days, so do stay safe out there this afternoon. It is pretty wild. There'll be plenty of very strong gusty winds, especially in the south, and plenty of patches of significant rainfall elsewhere. If you look at the weather warnings, we do have this wind warning issued further southwards. Hasn't been updated since yesterday, but again, an unseasonably windy day is likely on Saturday. Once again, wind gusts widely 40 miles per hour and perhaps up to 55 miles per hour, but some of the latest model data, as we saw yesterday, was even indicating wind speeds could be as high as 55 or 60 miles per hour. But again, covering most of central, southern, eastern England and parts of South Wales. And then we've seen this secondary warning issued further northwards. We've got a thunderstorm warning for Northern Ireland from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. Again, heavy showers and some thunderstorms are likely to develop. Again, high impact, low likelihood. Again, wrapping round the centre of the low. We're not seeing them develop at the moment, even though the warning is in force, but there's plenty of hours left for this. And then we got a second thunderstorm warning issued for much of northern England and most of Scotland from 10 a.m. until 11 p.m. Again, scattered heavy showers and thunderstorms will occur across parts of Scotland and northern England. Lightning and hail are likely in places. Rainfall totals up to 15 or 20 millimetres an hour, and maybe a few areas seeing 30 millimetres. That's actually relatively low rainfall amounts for significant thunderstorms, and that is because they are moving through very quickly because of the very strong winds. But regardless, will be impactful in many regions. High likelihood, lower end of the impact. Again, from looking at the live radar, I'm surprised they haven't extended it further southwards, since we are seeing some significant storms in these regions too. Now, if we quickly go back to NetWeather, we're able to have a look at the top 20. We normally have a look at this for temperature, but we can have a look at it for wind speeds. And you can see the maximum wind speeds at the moment, widely 20 to 30 miles per hour. Again, this doesn't pick up every single weather station, but it does cover most of the country. So you can see very strong sustained wind speeds at the moment. And the max gusts, we're seeing around 40 to 50 miles per hour at the moment. Heathrow there, London Heathrow Airport, getting up to 40 miles per hour, so even these wind speeds getting quite far inland now. And we'd expect over the coming hours these to perhaps get as high as 50 or 60 miles per hour. As I said, it will be interesting to see what the highest wind speed is later. Will probably be the Isle of Wight or the Needles or something where we are very exposed. Could see maybe a 70 in that region. If you go over to the UKV now, Be able to see the latest for what the UKV thinks can happen to all these showers through the rest of the afternoon. As you get to the point we're recording this around midday, again, heavy, significant showers breaking out. And again, I'm a little bit unsure why the thunderstorm warning's been issued for only far north of Northern England and Scotland. From the looks of this, it probably should have been issued for the Midlands as well. Thunderstorm warning still issued for Northern Ireland, but looking at this, looks like there will be plenty of rain and heavy rain around, but none of those deeper reds which would indicate thunderstorms. So perhaps not too many thunderstorms in those regions. But the showers do start to fade away around the 2 or 3 p.m. point, more exclusively further northwards where they will continue, and perhaps some persistent rain wrapped around the centre of the low into northern England and North Wales. So showers should start to reduce around the 3 or 4 p.m. point. So if you have got plans further southwards and eastwards through the latter part of the afternoon today, it shouldn't be too bad. May see a few showers, but not quite the same intensity. But those winds will still be very gusty. More persistent rain could move in later this evening for many central and northern regions with the centre of the low, but the intensity should drop and storms should sort of decay away around the 6 or 7 p.m. point. As we head into tomorrow, could see some more heavy showers and maybe a few storms around, but once again, much lower than today, and again, more persistent rain into parts of Scotland. As we head into Monday, another reasonable day, nothing too crazy here, but still a few showers around, probably a much nicer day in many regions. Into Tuesday, could see more persistent rain move in for the afternoon for parts of the Republic of Ireland, and through the evening for many regions across England and Wales, but it should decay away and sort of diminish through the early hours of the morning. And then into Wednesday, another day of sunshine and showers. Again, not too bad. So plenty of days coming up this week where there will be showers around, but it's not going to be a complete washout and quite a big improvement to what we have going on at the moment. If you look at briefly at the mixed level Cape, you can see why we've got thunderstorms breaking out through this morning and afternoon. Significant Cape peaking around that sort of 12 p.m. point. So right now, the storms are forming with the most energy, and around the 3 p.m. point, Cape does diminish. So still will be plenty of storms that do last a significant amount of time after the Cape does start to reduce, but we're less likely to see more storms pop in and out. Of course, the model can be wrong, things can be more energetic than initially forecast, and to be honest, looking at the live radar, it definitely does look a bit more energetic, a bit more widespread, and a bit more intense, especially across those Midland regions than the short-range models are showing. So perhaps we could see those thunderstorms last a little bit later, but the models won't be too wrong, so they will likely diminish through the middle of the afternoon. If you look at the max wind gusts, you can see them really picking up through this lunchtime. Around the 1 or 2 p.m. point, we should start to see those peak, again, around the 50 to 60 mile per hour point, quite widely even inland, seeing 50 plus miles per hour. Could be quite dangerous out there in places, especially combined with thunderstorms and heavy showers. The updrafts from those storms can pick up those wind speeds as well, so we could see some very violent winds within those blustery showers. Could be higher than 60 miles per hour in a few localised areas, so it will be quite wild continuing through this afternoon, even if we don't see significant rain in the south and the eastern portions. The wind should die down, but will stay pretty strong through the rest of the evening, and northern regions could see resurgence in those wind gusts through the early hours of the morning. But as we head into tomorrow afternoon, winds will still be relatively strong across northern England and southern Scotland, but elsewhere should drop down to 20 or 30 mile per hour wind gusts. Still abnormally windier than normal, but regardless, much lower than it has been today. And for the rest of the upcoming week, it does look like wind gusts won't be too high. If you look at the max temperatures today, pretty abysmal, widely the mid to high teens, even low teens where we see significant rainfall, maybe the far east seeing 22 degrees, but still not that great. Into tomorrow, temperatures perhaps reaching as high as 20, 22 again, but most regions still in the high teens. Into Monday, temperatures once again could just about reach 23 degrees, more widely around the 20 degree mark, but still not particularly great. And finally into Tuesday and Wednesday, again, low 20s possible, but persistent rain in the west holding those temperatures down. And Wednesday, similar, but more widespread, low 20s here, but not really getting much above 23 or 24 degrees, which is pretty much average in sort of the London region for the middle of July. So not great. Definitely on the cool side, but hopefully should be a little bit drier this upcoming week. Not bone dry, but definitely a little bit drier. If you just compare to some other shorter range models, start with the Rome run. Again, we can only have a look at sort of Northern England, Northern Ireland, southwards, unfortunately, because it is a French model, but we'll still be able to have a look at significant look at the strongest wind gusts and the biggest storms. So you can see through this afternoon, storms really taking off, peaking here around the midday point to around 1 p.m. So as I'm recording this, really, before starting to diminish around the 2 p.m. But still, there are some dark colours appearing here. So still significant storms in many regions. Again, from the looks of this Rome run, I'm surprised the thunderstorm warning didn't extend further southwards. Still significant cave around, even around 2 p.m. So definitely lasting those storms a little bit later than the UKV did for more persistent rain moves in this latter part of this evening. Showers still continuing the far south. In fact, there's still some cave around the 6 p.m. point. So it doesn't diminish completely, definitely lasting a little bit later. And for northern regions, quite a bit of persistent rain. So some regions still could escape it, but definitely a bit worse than the UKV was showing. For into tomorrow, we could see some more heavy showers break out in a few spots. But once again, the thunderstorms that do occur will be fairly isolated, with most of these showers more in sort of the orange zone, which is more just heavy shower. Very few here going towards the darker red, towards the sort of white colours, which indicate significant storm activity. If you look at the wind gusts, you can see peaking around the 1 to 3 p.m. point, especially across the south coast, and then across Essex, across East Anglia, the latter part of this evening. Again, picking up to perhaps here as high as 160 kilometres per hour. That is extremely strong from the Rome run very locally. That would be getting up towards the 90 or 100 mile per hour wind speeds. Again, I don't think that will happen. Rome very abnormal with that. I think it's picking up on this very localised area of significant wind gusts across the Isle of Wight. So most regions are around the 50 or 60 mile per hour gusts. Again, that's around these darker colours here, around the 70 or 80 kilometres per hour region, maybe as high as 90 or 100. But we are seeing 169 here. I don't know if that is an error on the model. But the max is showing 169 kilometres per hour, which is ridiculous wind gusts. And if that was widespread, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw red warnings issued for that. I think it is an abnormality from the Rome run. You can see earlier on, around the 4 p.m. point, showing 100 kilometres per hour max wind gusts, which is more what I'm expecting through this afternoon. But maybe the Rome is picking up on a very localised system across parts of Isle of Wight, very localised strengthening of those winds, so we can't count it out. So if you are in the Isle of Wight across the far south coast, the Rome run from around the 5 to 7 p.m. point is showing winds could get up to the high, to sort of the 80, 90, maybe even 100 mile per hour strength. I doubt it, but that's what the Rome is showing. If you look at the arpège, you can see from the convective overview plenty of showers this afternoon, degrading away through this evening, and the persistent rains further northwards than the Rome run showing, so perhaps for areas across central England, a little bit better evening before more showers spread into tomorrow. If you have a look at the wind gusts here, again, very similar through this afternoon, getting up towards the 90, maybe 100 kilometres per hour point. More towards probably the 90 kilometres per hour point, so that's around the 55 miles per hour range. So arpège is definitely on the lower end of the models we've had a look at the last few days. Definitely showing that strengthening across the Isle of Wight around the 6 or 7 p.m. point, but not getting towards the 80, 90, 100 mile per hour point, more around the 50 or 60 mile per hour point. So it'll be very interesting to see if we do see a big pickup of winds this evening across the Isle of Wight and the far south coast. Of course, we will have to see, but I do hope that our Rome run is inaccurate, because if we saw gusts of that speed, then it would get very wild indeed. So yeah, make sure you stay safe for the rest of this afternoon, as it is going to be very stormy, and of course the rest of this evening as well. If you finally have a look at the longer range, you can see the big storm system in play at the moment. As we head beyond that, we go into more of a westerly flow, but still pressure isn't particularly high, so that's why there's still showers, but it's not particularly low either, with no centre of low nearby. So that's why showers are going to be still there, but reduced next week. Beyond that, as we head into the last week of July, more low pressure returns. This could go, again, very unsettled before right at the end could see something briefly a bit dry, but the upper air temperatures are pretty abysmal, and you can see why it's so hot across parts of southern Europe, because we essentially just got hot air that's not really going anywhere. You can see it doesn't really escape anywhere. Normally we do see plumes of hot air vecting northwards, normally giving the UK some hotter weather through the month, but here it's just sticking further southwards, essentially meaning these places are just going to continue to cook over the coming days, perhaps increasing in the heat into next week from this latest GFS run. So very, very interesting to see what can happen with that next week. If you finally just finished by looking at the ensembles, again, pretty abysmal ensemble members here. Cold and pretty unsettled. Definitely a bit of a drying trend next week, but rainfall will returning probably from next weekend quite widely with significant spikes appearing. But again, those upper air temperatures are pretty bad, a good few degrees below average. Won't mean it'll be colder the whole time. There will be warmer days where the sun does come out, but generally we are not looking likely to be seeing anything remotely above 25 degrees in the foreseeable future. You can see that from the 2 meter temperatures here from the midnight run. Very few ensemble members getting above 25 degrees over the next few weeks. And if we do compare it to the ECMWF ensemble members, pretty similar, well below average over the coming weeks, maybe slightly more towards average in the longer term, and still really high precipitation. And the 2 meter temperatures, again, struggling above 20 degrees here, let alone 25 degrees. A few ensemble members in the last couple of days of this run getting above 25 degrees, but prior to that, 0. So yeah, not looking great for the mid to longer range prospects. So do enjoy any drier weather you do see over the coming days. Warmer weather you may see, as it's not looking great. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe out there the rest of today. It's going to be pretty wild, pretty unsettled, and pretty horrible in places. But as I said, those showers should move through quite quickly, so shouldn't impact most regions for too long. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe the rest of today, and I'll see you again for another video soon.